The gate wasn't locked. It was worse than that. It was closing, slowly, deliberately, while my daughter stood trapped between cold metal bars and a woman screaming about rules. My daughter didn't cry. She froze. And the HOA Karen thought silence meant compliance. What she didn't know was that I was already walking toward them. And that I was an assistant commissioner. My daughter, Aisha, is 9 years old. She has a physical disability that affects her balance and muscle control. She's bright, curious, and stubborn in the way only brave kids are. She hates being rushed. She hates being touched without warning. And she hates loud voices, especially when they come from adults who think authority replaces empathy. Our apartment complex has a shared garden with a tall iron gate. The gate is meant to keep stray animals out at night. During the day, it stays open. Parents walk through with strollers. Kids ride scooters. It's supposed to be safe. That afternoon, Aisha and I were heading to the garden so she could practice walking short distances with her support braces. It was part of her therapy: slow steps, controlled breathing, confidence. We were almost there when I heard a sharp voice cut through the air. "Hey! You can't go through here like that." I turned to see her. HOA Karen. She stood by the gate, one hand gripping it, the other holding a clipboard like a badge of honor. She had the look: tight lips, narrowed eyes, posture stiff with self-importance. "This area is restricted," she continued, eyes locked on Aisha. "Wheelchairs and mobility devices damage the pathway." Aisha stopped. Her hands tightened on her braces. I stepped forward calmly. "She's allowed to use this entrance. There's no restriction." Karen didn't look at me. She bent down slightly toward my daughter instead. "You need to wait," she said loudly. "You can't just come in here." Aisha flinched. Sudden voices always hit her hard. "Please don't speak to her like that," I said. "Address me." Karen finally turned, annoyed. "Sir, HOA policy." "There is no such policy," I replied evenly. "And even if there were, it wouldn't override disability access laws." She scoffed. "I know the rules better than you." That's when she reached for the gate. At first, I thought she was opening it wider. She wasn't. She began to close it slowly while Aisha was still standing between the bars, her brace caught awkwardly against the frame. "Aisha, step back," I said immediately. But her body didn't respond fast enough. Panic set in. She froze, eyes wide, breath shallow. Karen kept pushing. "Stop," I said sharply. "You're hurting her." "I'm enforcing regulations." Karen snapped, refusing to release the gate. "She shouldn't be here." I lunged forward, placing my arm between the gate and my daughter, taking the pressure myself as I pulled Aisha free. She stumbled into me, shaking. Karen stepped back, clipboard clattering to the ground. "You just assaulted me," she said loudly. "I'm calling this in." People nearby had stopped. A man walking his dog. A mother with twins. A teenager on a bench, phone already raised. "You saw that," I said to them, keeping my voice steady. She closed the gate on my child. Karen pointed at Aisha. She was blocking the entrance. "It's a safety issue." My hands trembled, but not with anger. With restraint. "Ma'am," I said slowly, "you physically restrained a disabled child." Karen laughed, short and sharp. "Don't exaggerate." Aisha buried her face in my jacket. I knelt, speaking softly. "You're okay. You're safe." Behind me, Karen was already dialing her phone. "Yes, this is HOA enforcement," she said loudly. "I have a disruptive resident and a non-compliant disabled minor refusing to follow rules." That word again. Disabled. Like an accusation. Within minutes, security arrived. Then, because witnesses had already called it in, a patrol car followed. Karen's confidence surged when she saw the uniform. "Thank God," she said dramatically. This man attacked me after I tried to keep the area safe. The officer looked at Aisha, then at the red mark forming on my forearm from the gate. Sir, he said calmly, can you tell me what happened? I did. Simply. Clearly. Without emotion. Karen interrupted repeatedly. He's lying. I never touched her. The teenager stepped forward. It's on video. The officer took the phone. Karen's face shifted, just a flicker, but I saw it. The officer watched. Rewound. Watched again. Ma'am, he said, why did you close the gate while the child was in it? Karen crossed her arms. She was obstructing access. She wasn't moving fast enough, the mother with twins added. That's not obstruction. Karen snapped, you don't know HOA law. The officer straightened. HOA rules do not permit physical restraint. Another officer arrived. Then a supervisor. Karen's voice grew shrill. I demand he be removed. The supervisor turned to me. Sir, may I see your ID? I handed it over. He glanced at it, then looked up sharply. His tone changed. Assistant Commissioner? Yes, I replied quietly. Karen froze. That's irrelevant, she blurted out. It's relevant, the supervisor said, because this involves potential abuse of authority and a minor with a disability. Karen's phone was taken. She protested. Loudly. I held Aisha close. Look at me, I whispered. Breathe. Sirens faded in the distance. The garden felt suddenly very still. The supervisor spoke again. We're opening an investigation. Ma'am, you'll need to step aside. Karen's confidence collapsed. I was just doing my job. The supervisor nodded. We'll determine that. As they led her away, parents began to speak up, stories spilling out. Fines. Harassment. Intimidation. Patterns. Aisha squeezed my hand. Is it over? She asked. For today, I said. But I knew it wasn't. Not yet. By the time the supervisor asked everyone to remain calm, the garden no longer felt like a quiet neighborhood space. It felt like a courtroom without walls, eyes watching, phones recording, and a truth that refused to be pushed aside. Karen stood near the gate, arms folded so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Her confidence had shifted into something brittle. She kept glancing at the iron bars as if they might defend her version of events. They wouldn't. The supervisor spoke first. We're going to take statements. Everyone who witnessed the incident, please stay. No one left. The mother with the twins went first. She closed the gate while the child was still there, she said plainly. I thought she was joking at first. Then I saw the child freeze. The man with the dog added, the father told her to stop. She didn't. The teenager held up his phone. I got it from the moment she grabbed the gate. Karen scoffed. Selective recording, she snapped. You didn't see what happened before. The supervisor met her gaze. We're about to. He watched the footage. Once. Twice. Then a third time, slowly. No commentary. No reaction. When he finally looked up, the air shifted. Ma'am, he said evenly, you're shown applying force to a gate while a minor with visible mobility braces is within its swing radius. That's a safety violation. Karen opened her mouth. Closed it. Tried again. She was obstructing common access. Obstruction, the supervisor replied, is not defined by pace. I kept my focus on Aisha. She sat on a low bench now, sipping water, her breathing steadying as the crowd's noise softened. I counted with her quietly. 1, 2, 3. The way we always did when the world got loud. Security staff approached, unsure where to stand. The supervisor waved them back. This is now a police matter. Karen's eyes widened. You can't do this. I represent the HOA. You represent yourself, the supervisor said. And your actions. Another officer stepped forward with a small notebook. Sir, he said to me, we'll need a formal statement. I nodded. Of course. I told the story again, slowly, clearly, with facts instead of feelings. Where we were going. What was said. What was done. I didn't raise my voice once. When it was Karen's turn, her story shifted. Small details changed. Words were softened. Timelines blurred. The supervisor noticed. So you didn't touch the gate, he asked. I did, she admitted. But only to guide. And you didn't notice the child's brace caught? I wasn't looking at her, Karen said. I was enforcing rules. A murmur moved through the crowd. That's the problem, someone whispered. Karen snapped around. This is harassment. The supervisor cut in. No, ma'am. This is accountability. He turned to his radio. I need a disability liaison and HOA policy documentation. On scene. Karen's face drained again. While we waited, neighbors began sharing their stories, quietly at first, then with growing confidence. She fined us because our son's therapy van parked too close, one father said. She threatened to revoke pool access because my daughter uses a flotation vest, another mother added. Each story landed heavier than the last. Karen's shoulders slumped. The HOA president arrived soon after, out of breath, tie loosened, eyes darting. He approached Karen first, whispering urgently. She shook her head, panic etched across her face. Then he turned to me. I didn't realize, he began. I raised a hand gently. This isn't about realization. It's about responsibility. The disability liaison arrived, a calm woman with a clipboard that actually meant something. She watched the video once, then knelt beside Aisha. Hi, she said softly. I'm glad you're okay. Aisha nodded. The liaison stood. This incident warrants immediate review. There's potential violation of accessibility law and improper enforcement conduct. Karen looked at the HOA president. You said we were allowed to enforce gate use. He swallowed. Not like this. The supervisor spoke again. Ma'am, you are being relieved of your enforcement duties pending investigation. Karen's voice cracked. You can't just. I can, he said. And I am. A pair of officers guided her a few steps away, not arresting, not dramatic, just firm. The crowd exhaled. I crouched beside Aisha. How are you feeling? Tired, she said honestly. But not scared anymore. That's good, I replied. As the officers wrapped up, the HOA president cleared his throat. We'll be calling an emergency board meeting. Good, the supervisor said. We'll be there. As we prepared to leave, a woman approached me. Thank you, she said quietly. For not letting this disappear. I nodded. That's how it keeps happening. That night, my phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from neighbors. Parents. Community members who'd been silent for years. The pressure had shifted. And the HOA felt it. The emergency HOA meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening. They called it procedural. The neighborhood called it overdue. By the time Aisha and I arrived at the community hall, every chair was filled. Parents stood along the walls. Some leaned against doors. Others sat cross-legged on the floor, their phones tucked away, not to record, but to listen. Aisha hesitated at the doorway. Crowds were still hard for her. I crouched beside her. We can sit near the aisle, I said softly. If it gets too loud, we step out. She nodded and took my hand. The HOA board members filed in, one by one. Their usual confident chatter was gone. The room quieted as the HOA president cleared his throat. "We're here to address the incident at the garden gate," he began, eyes scanning the room. "And to discuss necessary changes moving forward." Karen sat at the far end of the table. No vest. No clipboard. Just a folder clutched tightly, like it might shield her from what was coming. The president continued, after reviewing police reports, witness statements, and video evidence. A hand rose immediately. "How many complaints like this were ignored?" a father asked from the back. Another voice followed. "Why did it take a child being hurt for you to listen?" The president held up his hands. "Please, one at a time." He turned to me. "Sir, would you like to speak?" I stood slowly. Not as an official. Not as a title. As a parent. "My daughter has a disability," I said calmly. "She doesn't need enforcement. She needs patience." I paused, letting the room settle. What happened at that gate wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a pattern. And many of you here have lived it. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. I gestured gently toward Aisha. She stood beside me, shoulders tight but steady. Karen finally spoke. I was trying to maintain order. Aisha looked at her, not angry, not afraid, just honest. "You made it loud," she said quietly. "And loud makes my body stop." The room went still. The HOA president closed his eyes briefly, then looked up. "Karen, based on our findings, your actions violated HOA policy and state disability protection laws." Karen's breath caught. "I was told to enforce." "No," the president said firmly. "You were told to observe. You chose to act." He turned to the room. "Effective immediately, Karen is removed from her position." A low gasp moved through the hall, followed by soft applause that grew stronger as people realized this wasn't being reversed. Karen slumped back into her chair. But it wasn't over. "We are also suspending all enforcement activities pending an external review," the president continued. "And implementing mandatory disability awareness training for all staff and board members." Parents nodded. Some wiped tears. Aisha squeezed my hand. After the meeting, people approached us quietly. A mother knelt to Aisha's level. "You were very brave." Aisha shook her head. "I was scared." "That still counts," the woman said gently. Outside, the night air felt lighter. In the weeks that followed, change actually came. New signage went up, clear, inclusive, respectful. Accessibility routes were expanded. A community advisory group was formed, made up of parents, educators, and disability advocates. Karen never returned. One Saturday morning, Aisha asked if we could go back to the garden. I watched her carefully as we approached the gate. It stood open. No one blocked the way. She stepped through on her own, slow but confident. "Can we practice here again?" she asked. I smiled. "As long as you like." She took a breath, then another, counting quietly to herself. The gate no longer felt like a threat. It felt like what it should have been all along. Just an entrance. Just a path forward.